look, it's you guys again! What's up, YouTubers? This is your favorite Onion with another State of Decay 2 Daybreak weapons review. And in this review, I'm going to be looking at the 7th unlockable weapon, the CLEO Assault Shotgun. Now, although the stats and specs for the weapon speak for themselves, I will be giving my evaluation on the weapon's abilities in combat. This will involve tactics that are best employed while the weapon is equipped, my conclusive opinion, and an overall score. So evaluation will take place on 4 main fronts: ammunition economy, crowd control, pressure combat, and the most optimal role of the wielder. Now, opening up with the Assault Shotgun's ammunition economy, which is pretty much how long the weapon can practically last from wave to wave. Just like the CLEO machine pistol, the CLEO Assault Shotgun is an alternative version of an earlier weapon. The CLEO Assault Shotgun is an automatic weapon containing 16 rounds. Given that CLEO ammo packs come with 32 rounds, this equates to 2 mags per ammo pack. Unlike the other 2 automatic weapons, the Assault Shotgun has a very tame fire rate without an alternative fire setting. Consequently, performing single shots is rather simple. Between the CLEO Shotgun and Assault Shotgun, there is a slight loss in power, increase in control, and a greater amount lost in accuracy. The power and control difference seems virtually unnoticeable, but the lost chunk in accuracy will stick out like a swollen thumb. Although the effective range is the same for both weapons, the lower accuracy increases the survival rate of Zeds, even though they are in close range. Looking at the crosshairs, they are a bit larger than the CLEO Shotgun, and the lower accuracy is a testament to that. In regards to ammo economy, this results in a lower standing, since more ammo is likely to be required for every intended target. Otherwise, standard Zeds aren't particularly difficult to take down. Armored Zeds are slightly more of a challenge. Given the accuracy and effective range, the success rate for killing an armored Zed with the Assault Shotgun is somewhat lower. It is doable, but the CLEO Shotgun will have an easier time doing so, since more rounds will be concentrated on the helmet. Although a bit less economical, this small shortcoming does not completely diminish the weapons used against them. When put against a Juggernaut, however, the CLEO Assault Shotgun has similar effectiveness to its earlier counterpart. The Assault Shotgun, due to its fire rate, will have an easier time taking them down much faster for a similar number of rounds. Alright, so now moving on to crowd control. Although crowd control makes up a relatively small frequency of occurrences, the chances of its need increases with each wave, and performing it properly can be the difference between progressing to the next wave or your technician dying a premature death. The CLEO Assault Shotgun, with its widespread, high damage, and high but controllable fire rate, gives it a major advantage in controlling crowds. Due to the effective range, however, optimal kill-to-shot ratio is maintained at close range. But since the weapon is automatic, crowd control can still be performed at mid-range, but will not be as effective. Looking at the size of the crosshairs, eliminating lateral targets is an easy tactic. As discussed in ammo economy, armored Zeds are a slightly higher challenge due to the relatively low accuracy, and this will be greatly exacerbated when they are part of a crowd, forcing the wielder to use their melee weapon. Additionally, although the automatic fire setting is extremely helpful with crowd control, given how vast crowds can become, the ammo capacity is rather low for a crowd controlling weapon, and with the automatic fire will require frequent reloads. Further on that point, the reload speed is frustratingly low, making the use of a melee weapon mandatory if fighting at close range. If one is going to deplete their mag, it is advised that each round is put to good use, to avoid becoming swarmed. Other than that, when used as a crowd controller, this weapon will excel, even in the event of an emergency situation where the barricades are down and the technician is exposed. Like the CLEO Shotgun, the Assault Shotgun is reliable in close call circumstances. Given the economy of this weapon, the user can afford to be a bit more liberal with their ammo, as opposed to the CLEO SMG and machine pistol, meaning that performing crowd control should not take too much out of the weapon, even when playing solo. The need for crowd control is usually the result of a lack of effective pressure combat, which will be our next discussion. Pressure combat refers to how efficiently a ranged weapon can be used to eliminate targets in multiple areas, or how well said weapon can complement your ability to eliminate multiple scattered enemies from varying ranges. The CLEO Assault Shotgun's range is expectedly limited, and consequently limits its ability to eliminate scattered targets efficiently. Furthermore, the low accuracy creates an unreliable shot-to-hit ratio. The only upside to the Assault Shotgun is the high impact, which gives it high potential to kill in one shot, though this is reduced at mid-range. Similar to the other crowd controllers, closing the distance is a necessity, and will create a major tax on your stamina, which can have a domino effect by jeopardizing one's health. This weapon isn't completely incapable of performing pressure combat, but can only do so for a short period of time, either from being overwhelmed or due to depleted stamina. Like the CLEO Shotgun, if one is going to use this weapon for pressure combat, it is best used when the barricades are breached, since Zeds will mostly converge on one position, your technician in particular, which will make them easier targets to kill efficiently. A major advantage the Assault Shotgun has when compared to the CLEO Shotgun is the effectiveness against juggernauts, which become a growing issue as the waves progress. Both weapons require a similar amount of ammo, but the Assault Shotgun can do it faster. When it comes to pressure combat, the efficiency is what matters most. This becomes ever more crucial past the 4th wave. So now we're going to move on to role designation. Given everything about the CLEO Assault Shotgun discussed so far, I would designate this weapon for an aggressive role. The effective range, lowered accuracy, high power, and fire rate demands the weapon be used outside the barricade. This does not mean it cannot be used defensively, it easily can, but would be a waste of its talents if this style is adopted for too long. The only time I would recommend using the weapon defensively is in the presence of a Juggernaut, or with a low-functioning team. Taking down a Juggernaut quickly requires exclusive focus and fire concentration. Although effective against a Juggernaut, the surrounding Zeds will be an annoying distraction, forcing the wielder to divide their attention, which is counterproductive with this weapon. The long reload will also be a significant nuisance. Consequently, remaining behind barricades or in an elevated position is best under such circumstances. Being the carrier of a shotgun makes the wielder the backbone of the team. When the Zeds are rushing in, the wielder will have the easiest time eliminating their large numbers, and may be the technician's best chance of survival. Otherwise, being on the outside, balancing melee strikes with fire from the Assault Shotgun will ensure crowds are eliminated quickly, and minimize stress on the barricades and one's team. Now for this awesome Onion's opinion, I actually grew to enjoy using this weapon, as one of my greatest attempts were made with it. I would give it a solid 2nd place after the CLEO Blast Rifle, as far as favorites go so far. Initially, it feels a bit unnecessary, like bringing a rocket launcher to a stealth mission. But just like the CLEO Shotgun, as the waves progress, its needs become increasingly clear. After all, the weapon was made for crowds and juggernauts, which don't really pick up until the 3rd wave. I was satisfied with the economy and impressed with its ability to handle a crowd, but its pressure relieving capabilities mixed with the painfully long reload and small clip size for a crowd controller was the main frustration. The redeeming quality is how efficiently it can put down a Juggernaut, which is a major stress reliever on barricades. It is important to consider the team one is playing on. Playing solo will bring a very different experience from playing online. A high-functioning team may not require so much intervention from an Assault Shotgun. A low-functioning team may have an opposing story. Regardless of the team though, its niche as a crowd controller, Juggernaut deterrent, and final defenseman will be consistent. Out of a score of 5, I give this weapon a score of 3.8. Hey, you reached the end of the video. Great job. Now hit subscribe.